What's up, everybody? Here we go. This is a quick review of what we learned in the last class of after you've exported an AAF from Adobe Premiere or Avid Media Composer, how do you get that into Pro Tools and set up to start editing your Pro Tools session? This is going to show you how we did it in class. Okay, number one, let's go to our modules page. Modules. This is everything you need is in here as usual. Click on modules. Now, if we go down to this week's module, which right here is week of, where'd you go? Week of May 1st through May 8th. Sound Design Part 1, Introduction to Final Class Projects. You want to look at the in-class audio post-production session. Now, this is a reminder. There's two projects we're going to work on for the remainder of the semester. Number one is the in-class audio post-production session. This one we're going to do in-class only. Once class is over, don't work on it because we're going to work on it step by step every week, and I want everyone to be on the same page. So no working on it in between classes. What you should work on in between classes is your final session. Your final session is your project that you're going to work on, your final project / session. If you want to get more details on them, all you got to do is go to the modules, click on them. It'll all make sense. This little video is specifically about how to get started on the in-class one. So here we go. Click on in-class audio post-production session. Boom. Okay, first, using the below Google Drive link, you must download the files to your computer. So every week we're going to work on this in-class session, but it's not going to work unless you download these files to your computer. So if you don't have them downloaded yet, download them immediately and they'll open right up in Pro Tools. So basically we'll download these files to our computer so we can work on this session together in class for the remainder of the semester. So every class we'll work on this step by step. Again, don't go ahead. Once class is done, shelve this project until the following week, and in the days between classes, that's when you work on your final project by yourself using what we learned here. So you want to make sure you download both the zip file and the MP4 video file. The zip file has all your audio. The video file has your video. If you're using Catalina, which is the operating system on Macintosh that has just been buggy all the heck, you need to download the MXF video file instead. So if you're using a Mac and you're on the operating system called Catalina, download MXF. Everybody else, download the MP4. Okay, so click on the Google Drive link. Boom, here we are. So, in-class Pro Tools session, spring 2020.zip. It's 194 megabytes. This has the AAF file. What's the AAF file? Well, number one, go to the video tutorials and the modules and you can learn all about it. There's like 4 videos on them, but I'll summarize it here. When you're done doing your picture edit in Premiere, Media Composer, Final Cut, or any video editing program, in order for your sound that you've basically edited, because when you're editing picture, you're editing sound a little bit, right? You're placing sounds here and there just to see what they sound like. You export an AAF file. That file then is what Pro Tools sees. Pro Tools will open it up and see what little work you did. Oh, there's some dialogue here. Oh, looks like you put a sound effect here. Oh, looks like this is the music you want. And that's what and plus it has the video synced up to it. The sound editor needs to have an AAF file. That's the only way they can see the picture and audio that you have worked on as the picture editor. So you want, and all that stuff is in here. Then in the video files, double click on that, you'll see there are 2 types. There's the MP4 for virtually everybody. And then there's the folks who are on Catalina. If you're on Catalina, you double click on that, and this is the one you want. I'm not on Catalina, so I'm going to download this one. And then, what is it? Oh, I just right click on it, go to download, Make sure you put it somewhere where you know where it is. I don't know where you guys download your stuff. I download all of my stuff to a folder that is dedicated specifically for this class. I have it on an external hard drive, and it is a folder called Cinema 9-2 Sessions. How you do it, that's up to you. You hit save, and then it'll start downloading. And then download the zip file, which is right here. Download the zip file. Again, right click on it, download. It'll probably say that. Don't worry, I didn't put a virus in it. Download anyway. Where is it download? Well, I want to put it in the folder that I chose for me personally, which is a folder called Cinema 9-2 Sessions. I'll put it in there. Okay, so now that's all you have to do. Now you can close your website. Once you get the video file and the AAF file and the InClass.zip file, you've got everything you need for this InClass project. Okay, this is it right here. See this right here, InClass Pro Tools Session.zip. On a Mac and or on a PC, all you have to do is right-click and open, or double-click, whatever you prefer, does the same thing. And then it will expand. And it expands into a folder called InClass Pro Tools Session, Spring 2020. Inside that folder, you've got clips and effects. This is some clips that the video editor used in the project, as well as other clips that the video editor found to use in the project. So they're given to you as, hey, here's what was used, and B, here's some others that I considered using, but I didn't. Have some fun. This is kind of what I'm going for. All of this was supplied by the video editor. Now, maybe your video editor isn't going to do that, or maybe they are. I think it's always great to get included a bunch of files that the video editor thought, oh, this could be good, this could be good. Doesn't mean I'll listen to them, but hey, lets me know what they were thinking. Dialogue, alternate takes. So there are two people talking in this video, a guy and a girl, and the guy is the pilot. So it's just called scene pilot. And then the girl is just scene take 1, scene take 2, scene take 3, scene take 4, scene take 5. So there's 2 takes of the pilot and 5 takes of the girl. So we're going to see the video, and we're going to see based on the file name of the video. If we look at the production audio in the video on the Pro Tools timeline, we'll see the production audio. It'll be, I forgot, like take 3 or take 4 or something. It'll tell us which take it is. So if we want to find the actual good audio, the good boom recorded audio, it's in these folders. So, but it's possible that the video is really good, but the audio from another take is better. So that's when we could do stuff like elastic audio to make it sort of stretch or like sort of shrink or stretch into the shot. But for now, all you need to know is this folder right here, dialogue alternate takes, are all of the raw takes of the boom mic, which we're going to use in this session. And then, of course, the AAF file. This contains all of the data that will build the multi-track session that was exported from the video program. And I'll show you how to get that in there. And, of course, video files. I downloaded both just for fun, but I'm going to use the MP4. Okay, so this is all the stuff I'm going to bring into Pro Tools. Now, let's open up Pro Tools. Okay, here we are in Pro Tools. So we are going to be making a brand new session. That's what this is. We're not opening a session, we're creating a new one. So this is what we did back when we first opened up Pro Tools the first time in this class. So I'm going to call this session, so I know that this project is it's a movie trailer for a movie called for a movie trailer called MX0. So I'm going to call it MX0. And I'm just going to save it to local storage. File type, remember, we always want WAV. AIFF is cool, but WAV is the industry standard, so there's no reason to switch it. Bit depth, remember, always 24-bit. Sample rate. Now, I was working earlier in another project that locked my sample rate, but you want to be at 48 kilohertz. Mine is locked because I was in a Zoom session with Pro Tools, and Zoom and Pro Tools are kind of weird, but you want this to be 48 kilohertz. Interleaved audio. That basically makes your life easier. That allows stereo files to be imported as stereo files. Interleaved is the industry term for stereo file. If it's not interleaved, if I unchecked it, I'll bring in a stereo file, you know, like a music, like an MP3 or something like that, and it'll split it into 2 mono tracks, left and right, which is fine, but then it just creates more tracks taking up screen real estate. Interleave keeps stereo files merged as stereo files. Easier to deal with, always leave it checked. And then I prompt for location, because what that does is it's saying, where do you want to put this session folder? Well, I would like to make a new folder called, let's call this MX0 for Cinema 2. And then what's going to happen is it will create a session called MX0 in that folder. Everything we do will be in this folder. So if you lose this folder, you've lost everything. So everything will always be saved to this folder. Save. And then we've got a nice blank window. Isn't that great? I love it. Okay. So now what we do is this. What's the first thing we do? Set up Playback engine. So remember I was saying before I was using the Pro Tools in a Zoom session. That's what this is all about. I need to change my Playback engine to built-in output. I'm actually using something different, but for our intents and purposes, built-in output is what you want to choose if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, there's a video tutorial for this, so you should probably just look at the video tutorial. But if you're on a PC, you should just choose whatever your sound card is or ASIO. I'm actually using something called Scarlett, so I'm going to choose that. But if you're on a Mac, you should do built-in output. I'm going to choose Scarlett because that's a thing that I've got here. And of course, it says it has to close and reopen the session. I'm fine with that. And then I forgot to show this to you. Since this is a video, you want Video Engine to be enabled. If it's not, you won't see a video. You'll hit play and you'll hear it, but you won't see anything. You got to keep it enabled to actually, so Pro Tools can actually play the video back. Hit OK. Boom. Number 2, I always like to go up to Setup, down to Session. See that? And right here it says Session Start. I like to make it start at 1 hour, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 frames. Why? That's just how I was taught. It's always good to set this to either start at 00000 or 010000. I think 01 is more of an industry standard. Goes back to the days of tape. I'm not going to go into that here, but you don't want just to start willy-nilly at any random timecode time, because timecode is your friend. When you are talking with other editors, they need to know where the timecode is starting. I know for a fact that this video starts at 1 hour 00000. So I'm starting my Pro Tools session at 1 hour 00000. It makes everything consistent and not confusing for anybody if everything timecode wise is the same. So we do that. And then up here, remember our 2 counters? The main counter, see that? Timecode. We want that on timecode. Our sub counter, what's cool about Pro Tools is we can watch 2 different counters. What I like about this is I keep my main counter on timecode and my sub counter on minutes and seconds. So if I'm 10.5 seconds into this, the sub timecode will say 10.5 for 10.5. And the main time code will say 0100.10.12 because this is a 24 frame per second project. I go over to nudge. I like to make sure that if I'm nudging stuff, I like nudging stuff a frame at a time. I do that. Grid, same thing. I like to push stuff along the grid one frame at a time. I could always change that whenever I want, but I like starting off like that. Okay, so now we're ready to import. Go up to File, down to Import, Session Data. Session Data. Now we are importing audio, yes. We are importing video, yes. But we're actually importing an AAF, which is a bunch of data that points to audio and video files. So we're importing session data. So we just click on this. Whoop. And now a window pops up saying, okay, where is this session data you speak of? Well, remember this folder we downloaded? The one that said InClass Pro Tools Session Spring 2020. Import into Pro Tools session data. Try to make it as clear as possible. There's our AAF file. Select that. Hit open. Boom. I know it's a lot of steps, but it's kind of like anything. You got to set it up perfectly, you know. So what you're seeing here is the source properties. So when this was exported from Premiere, it exported basically all the data of the file. So we see that it's an AAF file. We see that the start time code is 1 hour. We see that it's 23.976 frames per second. We see that that all the audio is 24-bit, 48K sample rate. And the video frame rate is 23.98 or 976. Audio media options. You've got a lot of options here. I myself like to copy from the source media. So what happens is, this is just a good habit. I want everything to live in my session folder. Everything, including the media from this AAF file. This AAF file is one file, and inside that file is embedded all of the audio files. It's going to extract all those audio files and put them somewhere. I would like to make sure that that source media is copied into my Pro Tools session folder, because remember, the thing with Pro Tools, everything goes in that one folder. So copy from source media. You could do other things. You could link to source media. But what that does is it doesn't copy any files. It just basically points to the AAF whenever you make an edit, which is fine, and it saves space. But if you ever move to another computer or you bring that session folder with you, that AAF file is not part of that session folder. You always need to copy media from that AAF file into your session, goes in your session folder. Again, everything stays in one place. So click on that. This video media options right here, again, copy from source media. Inside your session folder is a video files folder. This will put the video in there. Now, that being said, this AAF does not have a proper video file in there. It contains basically what we call a slug. For those who have video edited, you know what that is. It's just basically a placeholder, because I exported an MP4 for you guys. In order to save space, I kept the video file separate from the AAF. Long story, but AAFs, when videos embedded in them, they tend to be really big. So what a lot of people do, not just in this class, but in general, is they export an AAF, which has a video slug, and then it just has all your audio data. And then they export a low-resolution copy of the video and send it to the audio editor, so they've got something to look at when they're editing. That's what I did here. I'll show you how to get that in just a second. Okay, sample rate conversion, remember that? We don't have to do that because our project is 48K and our source is 48K. No conversion necessary. But you could do it if you wanted, but there's no point. And then check this out. See all this stuff? these are all the tracks that are going to be imported. What's cool about the video editor is that they labeled all their tracks in Premiere. So it looks like I've got 2 mono audio production dialogue tracks. I've got a working dialogue mono track. I've got an ADR mono track. I've got 2 mono tracks of room tone. Everything was clearly labeled. If your video editor did their job properly, then the audio tracks are going to be labeled so you know as the sound editor what you're looking at. I don't know about you, but when I'm editing stuff myself, sometimes I'm lazy and I just keep everything generic. A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. And then when you bring it into Pro Tools and all your track names are A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. And then you're like, I don't remember what this stuff was. Why didn't I label it? It's always good to keep things labeled. And last but not least, session data. We want to import clip gain and we want to import volume automation. That basically, if the picture editor did any like fade ins and fade outs, this will keep those. So it's good for the sound editor to see what the picture editor was thinking. Like, oh, this is a fade in. It's not just a hard cut. Okay, I'll do that. I'll make it better because I'm the sound editor, but I'll see what they were going for. Import rendered audio effects. You could do that, but you're just going to affect everything anyway. So I normally keep that off just so I don't have to like listen to something and go, and then take it out. So I just leave it unchecked. And then you click on OK and watch what happens. Okay, so it's saying choose a folder for your video files because remember I said copy video source media. Video files. Boom. Look, it's in the MX0 session folder, which I created. See? Right there. Boom. That's what we want. So it's automatically going to go in there. So you hit open. Okay. It says some renderings were missing. AAFs are imperfect. You're exporting an AAF from a video program, which is a very complex program made by Adobe, and you're importing it into Pro Tools, another complex program made by Avid. Lost in translation, that term totally applies here. Occasionally, a rendered file, which is like a processed file, doesn't come through. That's why I personally don't import rendered effect files, because I don't want error messages saying, oh, looks like this file got to throw a bunch of effects on it. I have no idea what to do with it because it was done by Adobe or whatever. So I just try to keep things fairly simple. But still, you'll get something like this every once in a while. That's okay. If it said files were missing, then you'd be like, whoa. But I'll tell you what this is in just a second because I've seen this before. I don't need a detailed report, so I'll hit no. So what it is remember that slug I was talking about? I didn't include a video file in the AAF when I exported it from Premiere. And it just put this little blank slug right here. See this track V1? That's our video track. So Pro Tools is saying, what's this? It's a blank video file. What do you want me to do with this? It's because it doesn't know, because it was made in Adobe, that my AAF doesn't have a video file. So I just ignore it. So I just hit OK, whatever, dude. And then, boom, look at this. Production dialog left, production dialog right, working dialog, ADR, room tone, etc., etc. These, if you look at the Premiere file, the audio tracks in the Premiere file will look exactly like this. Okay. So, and look, when we go back to the beginning of the timeline, hitting the return key, see, I'm at 1 hour 00000. Look, boom, it starts right there, which is where it started. And then what we get here is our clip list. Oh, let me just do this. Here are all the clips that are in this project. Now, this looks like a lot, but remember, we talked about this a little bit before. Everything that's bold is basically the source clip. Everything that's not bold is something that I cut. So for example, look at this. So I click on, where is it? I want to click on something good. Okay, 1009-CM. That is the source clip. Then I click on actually the portion of the clip I use and watch the timeline. Boom. So if I zoom in on it, 1009.cm. So the clip list shows you where these things are. This is the source clip. This is what was imported into the audio files folder, everything in bold. But the portions of the clips that I used are referenced by the parts that aren't in bold. So let's see here. I'm zoomed in so you're not seeing what I'm doing. Okay, so click, 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 ADR, watch ADR. Boom, boom, boom. See? In the ADR mix, there are 2 source clips, and it looks like I used portions. I used 3 portions of them, and that's what these are. So that's why it looks like there's so many. Some people say it looks cluttered. I think no, it actually shows that I used, for example, this FX background clip a lot. I used it here, I used it here, I used it here, I used it here. So I think it's actually very informative. Okay, last but not least, for bringing your project in here, this, remember I said, is a video slug. If you click on it, look, nothing. It's just black because it's a video slug. There's nothing in there. So all I got to do is use your grabber tool, delete it. Okay, so now I'm going to import the video track. First of all, the way importing tracks works in Pro Tools is, see what I'm doing right here? Whatever track is highlighted, whenever you add a track or import a track, it will place it below the highlighted track. And in this case, this is my video track. In Pro Tools, you get 1 video track. So I highlighted it anyway, just to be sure. File, import, video. Find the video that you downloaded. I've got the MP4 because I'm not using Catalina. There it is right there. You hit open. So destination, I could put it on a new track, but I want it on the main video track, which is right here, V1. And I want to import the audio from the file. Why? Because I just want to see what the picture editor did. You don't have to. You don't have to. It creates another track. But if you want to see just sort of the finished edit of what the picture editor liked, you can do it. But it's just for curiosity. Don't depend on it. So you click this. Oh, and you want to do session start. Very important. I want this to be at the start of the session because everything else starts from the start of the session, right? So preparing the video track. Oh my goodness, I'm so nervous. Okay, so choose destination folder on valid audio drive. Well, this is a video track, right? So sometimes you actually do have to go into your Pro Tools folder and say, no, I want you to go in here. Video files. So always put video in video files. Sometimes it'll do it. Sometimes you have to manually do it. I have to manually do it in this case. Open. Boom. And will you look at that? There's my video. There's the audio that came with the video. Again, this is not audio I'll be using. It's just a reference to see what the picture editor, sort of their version of what they think it should look like. Or sound like, I mean. We see that it's at 23.976 frames per second. If you don't see any frames right here, you want to click right here and make sure you choose frames instead of blocks. And if you don't see a video right here, remember, you want to go to Playback Engine, click on Video Engine Enable, and then secondly, go up to Window, down to Video. This is saying open up the video window. Mine's already open, but maybe yours isn't. That's the way you do it. And then if you play it, oh, hold on. And then if you play it, I could solo the track from the video editor if I want by clicking S. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll go to different parts to make sure that it matches up with this. Like it looks like there's some production dialogue here. It looks like there's some sort of ADR right here. So I will just sort of put my cursor there. Multiple tangos on the rooftop. You go in two. I can't hold it here long. Okay. Oh, there's me. So why don't we go back to, so let's unsolo that and solo the production dialogue and see if it sounds the same. Multiple tangos on the rooftop. You go in two. I can't hold it here long. All right. So it looks like everything matches. And you could play them together. Multiple tangos on the rooftop. You go in two. I can't hold it here long. Okay, they're playing together, so you know, okay, this is right. This is the right mix. So now that I know like that, okay, this is good. Looks like I got the right mix. What I like to do, remember this from before, I like to mute this. Now remember, this is the audio that goes with the video. This is not my mix. This is the video editor's mix sent to me as a reference. I will mute it. I will unsolo it. I will mute it. And then remember your track list over here. Remember what to do to hide it. See all these dots right here? This is the track. See, it says MX04021, MX04021. You want to click on this and watch what happens. It's now hidden. It's muted. See, it's muted. And now it's hidden. So there you go. Because I'm not going to be working with it. I'm mixing it. This was sent to me to mix. So I need to work with each individual track and make it as good as possible. So the next thing we got to do is this. You'll see that we have some redundancies here. Pro Tools likes things to be mono. So when you import stuff from an AAF, it tends to take stereo files and uninterleave them. So basically everything we import now, if it's a stereo file, will be a stereo file. But AAFs, unfortunately, in Pro Tools, always split stereo into mono files. It's actually done to give the editor more flexibility, so it makes sense. But with us, because this is a fairly simple project, it's more of a pain in the butt. Because look, it's taking up all this real estate. So this is the left channel of production dialogue. This is the right channel of production dialogue. This is the left channel of room tone. This is the right channel of room tone. This should be combined onto a stereo track. So this is how you do it. Find everything that has an L and an R. Looks like production dialogue, room tone, helicopter, etc., etc. So production dialogue left, production dialogue right. So click on production dialogue right. Go up to track, new, right here. You want to choose stereo. We're going to choose a new stereo track and we're going to name it, if I could spell, production dialogue. Create. Boom, look, it created a new track, and if you look closely on your screen, you'll see that there's a very faint horizontal line in the middle of your track. That lets you know that this is a track that has two channels, a left and a right channel in it. It's a stereo track that contains two channels. That's what stereo is, two channels of audio. So what you do is use your grab, basically either select, or you can click on one and then click on the last one and hit shift, either one. So just want to select all of it, and then using the grabber tool, not any of the other tools, go down to the bottom of any of the clips with the grabber tool, click and hold and drag it all into the production dialog window and watch what happens. Boom. Isn't that cool? So now I just took my two mono files and I just put them onto a stereo, or two mono tracks, and combined them and put them on a stereo track, because I don't need two mono tracks. They're together, they're stereo. So now what we can do is go up to the left production dialog, which is now blank, track, delete, production dialog right, track, delete, boom, and look at all that real estate I just saved. We're going to talk about what all these tracks are later. Room tone. Room tone left, room tone right. So again, go up to room tone right and then go up to track new, and that will create, then we'll create a stereo track called room tone. Create, and now it's created a room tone track. Let's select everything and bring it down. Boom, look at that. So I just made a stereo track out of my room tone. So now left and right are both deletable. So I could right click on it, hit delete, or click on it, go up to track, hit delete. Look at all this room I'm making. Okay, look at this. Looks like we've got a helicopter, and then we have typing effects, and then we've got helicopter right. So it looks like the video editor, when they were putting their tracks together, they accidentally split typing effects in between helicopter left and helicopter right. Why they did that, I don't know. So we need to move typing effects. So basically click on typing effects, left click on it, just right where it says typing effects. Click and hold, drag up. I could drag it wherever I want, but let's drag it in between room tone and helicopter. Okay, now helicopter left and helicopter right are together again. Now, as you can see, the picture editor also made a mistake. They thought they were being a sound editor, and it looks like they were trimming it, and what ended up happening was they trimmed the left channel, but not the right channel. We could still make this a stereo file. Helicopter right, track new, stereo, helicopter, boom. Again, click, shift, click, so both of them are selected. Look, it's going to select it all. So if we play this, it'll sound like this. And then watch. Now the left channel's disappeared. So when we get into the session, we're going to have to fix it. And also, I know in this session that this ADR really sucks. It sounds very, let's solo it. So, looks like there's some grunting noises. It's basically a fight scene. But they recorded it and put this weird metallic reverb on it. I hate it. So, we're going to make our own new ADR, but we're going to do that later. But if you want to go in and spot this and just listen to the tracks, that's cool. Just don't do any editing on it until our next class. So let's go back to this. Helicopter left. Delete. Helicopter right. Delete. And then music should always be stereo. I don't know why this. Well, I know because Pro Tools always makes things mono. So we don't want that though. So new track. Stereo. Music. Now you might be asking, hey, what if I have a stereo track? What if I have a left and right and I want to make it mono? Well, there are two mono tracks, so just get rid of one of them. And there's your answer there. Boom, there's that. And then get rid of, you can also shift select to select more than one, delete. And last but not least, we've got, I guess, some little drum segment. New track. We'll call this, oops. And there are shortcuts for all these. I'm just not using them for the purpose of a tutorial. Drums. I'll call it music drums. Just so we know it's meant to be musical. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. There we go. And then delete. And then look at the difference. Look at this. Oh, getting news updates. So basically, what I had before was a whole bunch of mono channels, and now I've got like about half mono and half stereo. A lot easier to deal with because there's not as much scrolling going on. Isn't that nice? And then I have, look, a lot less tracks. I hid that one because I don't need it. I muted it and I hid it. And now everything that should be stereo is stereo. So make sure you save. Even though it auto-saves, it's good to save. Last thing we went over in class, which I think is a good thing to do, is color coding. As you can see each track has a color. Pro Tools has some rhyme and reason that is its own logic. Maybe you have your own logic. I'll show you how my logic works. Check this out. V1. So first thing I do is I click on the clip, and then right to the left edge of the track, you'll see there's little color swatches at the edge of each track. Double click on the color swatch you want to change. So I'll double click on this one. Boom. Look at this. Color palette pops up, right? So this says, hey, what color do I want my track color swatch to be? Let's have it be, I don't know, dark purple. Boom. See that? Now look, it's dark purple. What color do I want my track to be? I can make it a different color. I myself like but each track to be its own unique color. Actually, each type of track to be its own unique color. I'll show you what I mean. So video track, the little swatch on the left is the color, and then the clips in the track will also be the same color. Look at that. It's kind of like a light version of it, but you get what I mean. Okay, now look at this. We've got a dialogue track. We've got a working dialogue track, and we've got ADR. These are all basically dialogue tracks. I'm using the grabber and holding shift to make sure I'm selecting everything. I want all of my dialogue tracks to be, let's say, light blue. So I click on tracks. I'll click on this sort of light blue, or this light blue right here. See? And now click on clips and tracks. Boom. Look at that. And now I would like my room tone to be, I basically want now all my, I want my backgrounds. I've got one track of room tone. I might add another one. But right now I know I want my room tone track. I like this golden color. I'm gonna choose something similar. So I will have clips and tracks be that yellow, and then tracks be that yellow, and then boom. Okay, now all my effects, like my hard effects, which is like typing effects, helicopter, let's have those be, I don't know, like an orange. I was gonna choose red originally. I'll stick with that. Stick with what you want to do. Okay, tracks, red. That's kind of like a red orange, but that's cool. Clips and track, red orange. Oh, see, I have to highlight them. See that? Boom, look at that. And last but not least, music. I definitely want my music to be easily identifiable. And also, oop. So let's have the music. What color have I not chosen here? Let's have the music green. Let's have it a nice, like, I don't know, bright green. Lime green. Why not? Clips and tracks, lime green. The track itself, also lime green. Boom, boom, boom. So now what we have is a session that is organized into the right types of mono and stereo tracks, and now is color-coded into the right type of stereo tracks. And we also saw before, we organized a little bit because the typing effect was in the middle of the helicopter effects, so we reorganized to change that. And again, remember, we want to go, it always starts off with video, and then dialogue tracks, which includes ADR, and then background, room tone, and then hard effects, and then if there's Foley, which there will be, that goes under that, and then last but not least, music. So we're gonna add probably a track or two of Foley, but otherwise everything is pretty much here. Everything is organized, everything is color coded, so it's easier to find what I need to find, and we're ready to go. This is pretty much how you set up a session. And trust me, the more you do it, the quicker it is. Okay.